Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Success Leaves Clues. For this episode, I have a good friend of mine. We go way back from when I first got here in Indianapolis. This guy, whether you love him or whether you hate him, he is probably the top sports columnist that we have in Indianapolis in this market. He has been doing this for a long time, and now he is with The Athletic.
Exactly.
And he's a beat writer, sports writer, gets to write great, awesome stories, man. Welcome on to Success Leaves Clues.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you, GB.
No doubt, no doubt. So Bob Kravitz, right? So formerly of the Indianapolis Star podcast, you probably did anything there is to do as a writer, right? But you're in the job that you love.
I love what I'm doing, man. It's not like when I was writing for the Star where I was writing 4 columns a week. Now I write maybe 2 or 3 pieces a week, but they're more deep dives and they're more involved, and it's a great chance to spread your wings and write the way you really want to write.
So speaking of writing, what's probably one of the top stories that you wrote about over your career in Indianapolis?
Well, I mean, there've been a bunch, but one story that comes to mind is, and it was a sad story, unfortunately,
right.
But and you were with the Colts at the time. I found out in the middle of the week, this is crazy, I was buying a car for my wife.
Wow.
Or we were buying a car. And the guy at the car dealership said, well, you're going to have a busy week next week. I said, why? And he said, well, he told me, he said, Chuck Pagano has cancer. And I was like, you're kidding me. So, you've got to, in my position, you've got to check out every crazy.
Of course.
You never know. And so I reached out to a few people, not Chuck.
Yeah.
Reached out to a few people in the organization and said, look, this is what I'm hearing. I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is not a problem, but this is what I'm hearing. And to their credit, they didn't run from it. They said, yes, it's true. But they asked me to hold it for a couple of days.
Wow.
Because the team was on the bye week.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody spread out all over the country, and they weren't meeting again until that following Monday, I think 8 a.m. So I was told you could tweet it out and all that at 8:15. So because I do have a relationship, if this was something with the Eagles or the Jaguars.
Yeah, absolutely. That story. They're not even confirming.
No. But because it's the Colts and because these are people with whom I do have a long-standing relationship with, and you don't want to screw them over. I wanted to give them an opportunity. I didn't want the players to read about it in the newspaper. And I felt good about that. I talked with my editors about it. And I said, if Adam Schefter or Mort or anybody else comes sniffing around, please let me know, because then that story got to go. Nothing happened, and fortunately, from a journalistic standpoint, we got the story first. Unfortunately, it was true.
Right.
And you guys found out at 8 a.m., I believe.
So funny story. Like the bomb had went off the season before, and Gritson, I was caught in that the whole charade. So I was let go the season before Chuck Pagano came.
Oh, that's
right. But I was still close to the team. But yeah, that definitely was devastating news about hearing his cancer diagnosis. It's interesting that you would hold a story like that, right?
Yeah, and like Adam Schefter caught a lot of crap for tweeting out that Andrew Luck was going to retire
at the game. Yeah.
Before he had a chance. I will say this in Adam's defense. That story had been out there for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew had told several teammates that he was going to retire, and every player has an agent, and agents love to talk.
Mm.
And so I don't know this for 100% fact, but I have to assume, Adam's got incredible sources, especially amongst the agent class.
Oh, no question.
And he found out about this, and I would not have waited either on that story. It's just too important. I just felt, when we're talking about a cancer diagnosis, you have to treat it with a little bit of, restraint.
Yeah, no question.
And respect. And I did not want the players to find. I mean, maybe that's not something that I should care about as a journalist.
Right.
As a human being, I do.
Right.
And I felt like this was something they were working with me, so I was willing to work with them. So it came out on Monday, and that's how it kind of started.
Great. And now the big story that you're working on is Mr. Peyton Manning, obviously first year eligible to make the Hall of Fame, and you're doing a story on his career.
What I'm doing is I'm doing 18 stories on Peyton.
I like it.
Yeah, 18 stories on Peyton. I've talked to about 14 guys, including yourself, so far. Hopefully I'll get 18, but some of you guys gave me great stories.
Yeah.
Like 2 or 3 great stories. So I'll have 18. That's going to come out the week prior to him being elected to the Hall of Fame, February 6th. And I hope people will read it and subscribe to The Athletic through that story. But his story, the stories of him as a prankster are absolutely hilarious.
World class.
I mean, the stuff that he's done to people.
Yeah.
I just feel fortunate in my life that the only time he got me was at the end of the season that he missed, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I walked up to him. I think it was in Buffalo, and he goes, his last game, I don't remember who they played. And he says, "Hey, it's Andrew Luck's agent." And, it's like, because that whole season I had been writing
about them letting him go.
About them letting him go, which was very hard to do because I like him and respect him, to no end. But it just made sense to me that he was a guy whose arm was going to fall off. And they owed him, I don't know, $28-36 million or whatever. And you have the greatest quarterback of a generation coming out.
Right.
What are you going to do? It was obvious.
So I get a lot of crap for this amongst my friends. And this is the first time I'm saying this on air. But I tell people also that season, I got injured in week 1.
Mm-hmm. And
I tell them that if I had not got injured, we wouldn't have never got Andrew Luck.
Probably not.
So I'm just as responsible as Peyton, right? But I get no credit for it.
Yeah,
so all my guys are like, you weren't that good. I'm like, bro, there were games where I'm telling you, I wouldn't have called that play. I would have made that stop. But I get a lot of crap for that. But
God bless him. But there's just so much you can do with Curtis Painter.
There it is, man. But what do you think? GB at linebacker the whole season. Do we win more than one game? Do we have to get Robert Griffin or someone else in that draft class?
Well, if they had gotten the second pick, Mercedes has told me they would have taken Robert Griffin.
Oh.
Yeah. He would have taken RG3.
Right.
Because there was no question that Luck was the guy.
Yeah, no question.
But, RG3 wasn't that far behind.
Yeah, not at the time. But then it goes into development, the system that you're in, the coaches and the sports system. So who knows how things would have turned out.
A lot of really good talents have gone to Washington. And
all right, no doubt. So let's change gears one more time. It's funny. I come from Philly. And the sports writers are a little bit different there, right?
They're brutal.
Howard Purcell. They have people on suicide watch.
Yeah, I know.
Right? And I know because one of my best friends played in Philly, he ain't leave his house. So when I got here, I thought you were always entertaining, honest, fair, and just gave you a fair assessment on players.
Well, thanks. I tried to. It's funny because I grew up in New York.
Yeah.
I used to read Dick Young and Mike Lupa and guys like that, and they were hardcore opinion guys.
Right.
They weren't necessarily clickbait guys, but they had a point of view. And those were the guys that I grew up reading. So I kind of brought some of that New York mentality to Indianapolis, which worked out fine for me. But at the same time, Indy is not a hardcore sports town. Not because the people don't try to be hardcore, but it's just a smaller number of people, And, in New York, you had 4 newspapers and you had all the newspapers in the surrounding areas. And, you go to a press conference and there'd be 40, 50, 60 people there. You go Pacers game, there's maybe 8 people.
Right.
So it's just a different dynamic is what I'm saying. But, I definitely came here with a New York mentality. I've had a little bit of that beaten out of me over time, but I still like the hardcore, guys and women who have a strong point of view.
No, that's amazing. So, what year did you get here in Indianapolis?
I got here in 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2000. So Coach Dungy came what year?
Shortly thereafter, let's see.
So it'd have been 01,
02, I think that sounds right.
Okay.
Because, Jim Mora, who I love. Playoffs.
Right.
Jim Mora, he had a falling out with Bill Polian, as many of us have. And he wanted to fire Vic Fangio, if you remember. Defensive coordinator. And Jim, to his credit, refused to go along with that. He would not allow Polian to do it. And Polian said, well, you're out the door. But that's about when I came in. I remember that 41-0 game.
Wow.
In New York with the Jets and the playoffs.
I remember watching that.
Yeah, it was not pretty.
Same sword out there, linebacker.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So you've been here since year 2000. So what has been like the biggest story for you to write about? Like, what was been one that you like you stayed up all night, you had to write about it, you had to get it out?
Well, there's been a lot of stories I've broken. I'll give you one example. It's not a huge story, but I found out during the week, it was during a bye week, that Coach Pagano had cancer. So I reached out to some people with the Colts and said, look, I hope to God this is wrong. But I said, I have to check everything. Because you never know. It's like we heard rumors that Andrew Luck had gotten hurt snowboarding.
Yeah, sure.
And none of us checked it because we thought it was so outrageous.
Right.
Well, we should have.
Right.
That's on us. But so I reached out to some people, and what I was told was, yes, that is the case. But they begged me not to write it until Monday at like 8:15 because the coaches wanted, the owner, Jimmy Irsay, wanted at 8 o'clock to meet with the team after the bye week, which I think you remember.
Right.
And tell the team, he wanted the team to know before they read it.
Wow.
And I just told my sources, I said, look, I'll be glad to hold it. It's hard. It's hard to hold that information, but I said, I will hold it for you guys. But if Adam Schefter or Mortensen or any of those other guys come sniffing around, you got to let me know. You got to do me a solid.
Right.
And thank God, it's a terrible, awful story. I wish I didn't have to write, but I remember calling my editor and saying, look, we got to have a whole package ready to go at 8:15. I will tweet it out at 8:15. I will have a story ready to go at 8:15.
Right.
We need to do a whole piece on the type of leukemia. We need to be completely ready. So that was big. I think the biggest story.
But that's sorry to cut you off, but that's like professional courtesy.
Professional courtesy. Yeah.
I'm not sure so percentages. How many reporters like in this market holds that story till Monday 8:15?
I think most, because when you're dealing with the local franchise and people who you've gotten to know, and people who in some cases you've gotten to like quite a bit, and they trust you and you trust them, I think it's different. Now, if it was something like, for example, with the Deflategate, I found out after the game. I was able to get it confirmed about 12:30 in the morning or at night, and I thought, should I hold this and just make sure that it's confirmed by the NFL? And I said, when I think I would have hurt myself long term if I had come out with it before they had a chance to tell the team.
So that was probably one of the biggest stores in Indianapolis, part of sports scene history, right? So definitely just want to give some color behind it, because when we say Deflategate, obviously we know exactly what it is. So the year was like, what was that, 2012, 13?
No, that was 2015. So
2015.
The other day was 6 years anniversary.
Wow. So we're playing New England Patriots, right? Who we don't like, right? I respect them now.
Sure.
Before I hated them, right? Now I respect them. They're a great team. So DeQuell Jackson. Was it DeQuell Jackson's interception ball?
Right.
DeQuell Jackson intercepted Tom Brady, gave it to the sideline.
Right.
Because we can get an interception, we want to get it painted, we want to get it all drawn on. So he gives it to one of our equipment managers, and they're like, kind of odd.
Yeah.
So it's a little
light, a little mushy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole thing, it was so crazy. I had no clue what was going on during the game, except that unfortunately you guys are getting your ass kicked.
Yeah.
And my big concern was getting the lobster roll at halftime in the
great seafood in Boston.
Great seafood in Boston. So then about 11:30 or so, I looked at my phone and somebody wanted me to call them. I got some information for you, and I found out, and I was told by this person that they were being investigated for allegedly using deflated footballs. I'm like, holy shit!
And just so people can know, a deflated football helps out with your grip. And when it's cold, it helps a quarterback grip the ball better and throw it. So
It was
a huge competitive advantage.
It is a competitive advantage. And it was about 46, 48 degrees. Not terribly awful, but it was a little rainy, if I remember right. And it made sense. And at first I thought it was absurd, to be honest with you. But then I started thinking about, Spygate, and there's always been whispers about all the underhanded things that they've done over the years. And, look, I would have checked on it if it was the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
But it kind of made sense when you put two and two together. And I reached out to virtually everybody I know and was able to get a confirmation on it. I wouldn't have run it unless I had at least a second confirmation.
Wow.
And once I did, I was like, well, let's let it rip. And then I think we broke the internet.
Yeah, it would have been an even better story that the game was actually close and they'd have beat us.
Oh, with a shuttlecock. With a badminton shuttlecock.
So it was close. It'd have been very interesting well,
a lot of people kept saying to me, Gary, like, well, it had nothing to do with the game. I was like, look, if you are a baseball player and you take steroids and you just suck and hit 257 with 3 home runs, it doesn't mean you didn't cheat. It just means that you didn't do a good enough job at cheating.
Yeah, exactly. But so there's one thing in professional sports where you're going to take any competitive advantage you can take, right? And try to skirt by the rules. But obviously, they always take it to a step further and been busted by it. So very interesting. How do you feel about the Patriots? Like, what is your...
I think Bill Belichick is the greatest coach who's ever lived.
So do you think Bill Belichick or Tom Brady is responsible for their success?
I think the equipment managers. Oh, no. Look, Brady. Look, look at what's going on right now. Look, they're both. They're the two primary reasons, obviously. Right. And Belichick is a fantastic coach. But look, I don't care how good your X's and O's are and your motivational speeches and all the other stuff. If you ain't got the quarterback, you ain't got nothing.
Right.
It's a lot of double negatives right there.
Yeah. So playing them, I think why they were so good was because every game, I feel like they came out with a new entire
deal. Yeah.
And you can never, as a defense, typically there's tendencies.
Right.
All right. If the halfback is offset to the left and the tight end is in this position, 90% of the time they run this play.
Right.
Well, they would self-scout and know the stats, and then they would have it, and they run a totally different play. So after 3, your tendencies get busted. It's like, I got to play football.
Yeah, I got no clue what they're going to do.
So I think that was always interesting. Yeah, they just did a great job of having smart guys and every game switching it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was always the frustration, I think, for Peyton, because Peyton would study and study and study.
Right.
And then all those tendencies would go out the window, and then all of a sudden he didn't know what the hell to do.
Right. So speaking of Peyton, this is his first time as a finalist, Hall of Fame.
Think he'll make it?
No brainer. He gets in, right? So what's your best Peyton Manning story?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know if it's the best, but since he's retired, I reach out to him every once in a while on email, and a lot of times I get word from somebody that their father has pancreatic cancer and has a month to live, and they're huge Peyton fans. And is there any way we can get in touch with Peyton? So, I have an agreement with him that I'll email him and say, hey, if somebody wants this, and if you want to do it, do it. And if you don't, don't,
Right.
And without fail, Gary, I'll get a call back from a family member saying Peyton Manning just called my father and talk to him about his cancer journey.
I don't think people know how much stuff like that he does.
He does. It's unbelievable. And I remember sending him an email and said, hey, man, I know I'm always asking for something and I don't feel comfortable with it, but, you mean a lot to a lot of people.
Right.
I'll just give you another little example. One day we're out at, maybe it was Rose Hallman, I don't remember, maybe it was Anderson, and he was signing autographs. And I noticed that his autograph is perfect. I mean, beautiful penmanship. So I just out of nowhere, I asked him about it. We end up spending 45 minutes talking about the importance of doing your signature correctly. And it's funny, I talked to Anthony Gonzalez about it the other day, and Gonzo said, I changed my John Hancock because Peyton told me to.
Wow.
Yeah. And
I wish you had that conversation with me because my shit is awful.
Did you at least put 58 on it? So
I put 58 on it.
All right, so people
I just
know.
put a G in the front though.
Just a G, yeah. Yeah, the lazy man's autograph.
Nah, no question. I'm definitely looking out for him. Reggie Wayne, another finalist.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Weeze getting in?
Weezy.
Second time in a row he's been a finalist. Obviously, definitely deserving of getting into the Hall of Fame.
No doubt. I just don't think it's going to be this time. There's just a bunch of really great wide receivers like Torrey Holt who are stacked up and waiting.
Yeah.
And think about it. Marvin Harrison
Had to wait.
Marvin Harrison was second year, I think. Marvin. I think Reggie will have to wait a little longer than Marvin. I think he might be a third-year guy or a fourth-year guy, but I think he's going to get in. I don't know if you saw Mike Chappell's.
No.
Mike Chappell did a thing. He's introducing.
Oh, I did not. Yeah, I watched a little bit of that.
He basically said, okay, Peyton Manning, drop the mic.
Wow.
That was his presentation.
That's funny.
And then David Baker, who runs the Hall of Fame, says, anybody got any questions or concerns about Peyton Manning? Silence. And so that was pretty cool.
That's funny. Mike's a good dude.
Mike's a good man.
I like Mike.
Mike started out, he came over here on the Mayflower, I tell him.
So the crazy thing about Reggie, so Reggie's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
So I'm selfish as hell, right? Want him to get in, him, Peyton, Edge, get it out the way. Let's go have an epic ass party.
Oh, hell yeah.
But I think he definitely gets in. So what's interesting is it's all about statistics when you talk about the NFL and you look at regular season statistics, right? And Marvin Harrison and probably some of those guys have a little edge on Reggie.
Yes.
But when we're talking about the playoffs,
he's incredible in the playoffs. He was so much better than Marvin in the playoffs.
he may be like the number one receiver in terms of like playoff stats, in terms of his receptions, his yard. And it's crazy, like Wes Walker or somebody like that is like close up there because he's been in the playoffs so much because he played with the Patriots. But Reg will definitely get in. I'll be sad if it's not this year. Just selfishly, I want to go see it.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be great. Well. Peyton from the throwing a Reggie, it would be awesome. But I don't see it happening this year. But it's funny. As you probably remember, the media would come in every day or most days. Fridays, a lot of guys didn't show up because we already had our stories. But we started going because it was Fridays with Reggie.
Right.
So we'd sit by his locker room and he'd moisturize and he'd change and he'd make a phone call and it was like, Reggie, I'm spending half my life watching you moisturize and it's starting to get on my nerves.
Yeah.
But he was always so good. He was always so funny. He'd tell us stories about it. I'm sure he's told you the story about the snake with who is the Reed?
Ed Reed?
Ed Reed.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard this story?
No.
So Ed Reed had to go out of town for a couple of days. They were living together.
He had to watch the snake.
He had to watch the snake.
Yeah, I did.
And he forgot to feed the snake. So he said, I called up Ed one day and said, hey, man, Lord did.
he killed the snake. Every time they're on TV, they talk about that. I do remember that.
Lord did, man.
Man. But it's crazy, man. Like what I miss most than anything in those relationships in the locker room, man. There is some solid dudes, right? Especially when I played that we had to interview, man. So definitely, man, just amazing to see how many of those guys want to be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. How special those teams were.
That's the thing. I got a book from Craig Kelly, who you remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He sent me his Peyton Manning book, and he wrote in the front. He said, "You and I had front row seats to greatness," and we really did. I wish to God you guys had won 2 Super Bowls.
Oh yeah.
Because I think back to that 2005 team.
Yeah.
You know, when you lost to Pittsburgh. That team, I mean, you were like number 2 in offense, number 2 in defense. That team, that was an incredible team.
It's a classic story of players being overconfident. Early in the year, we whooped Pittsburgh.
Killed them.
I think it was Monday night, big game, flying all over the place.
First play of the game, bomb tomorrow.
Because everyone thought like, hey, this small coach defense, we're going to run all over Jerome Bettis, Hall of Famer. Right? They came out here and play action the hell out of us.
Yes, they did.
And I won't mention the safety's name, but he did not have a good afternoon. But we still had a chance to win at the end.
Oh, my God.
Right?
Well, you talk about the end, and everybody gives Vanderjagt shit for missing that game.
Right.
Okay, fine. He's an easy target. But if you go back and watch the end of that game, Peyton had Edgerrin open in the flat.
Mm-hmm.
For a succession of 15 to 20 to 25-yard gains.
Wow.
And instead he kept going downfield. And that set Vanderjagt up for, I think it was a 46.
Yeah. Let's go back. There was a number 58 who made an amazing play on the goal line.
That's what I remember.
The ball pops out.
And the guy runs
near sideline.
Near sideline, man. You're gone.
Oh,
you're
my
gone.
God. The pain.
The night before his wife.
Oh, man.
My God, poor Nick Harper.
Yeah, I know.
He'll never.
Good dude.
But to me, that was one of the most remarkable. I mean, you hit Bettis right on the ball.
Bite the ball.
Bite the ball. Yeah.
And so that was like an old Coach Jando, Rutgers.
Yeah.
You know, when you make a tackle, bite the ball, put your face mask right there on the ball. It's illegal now. We don't teach that anymore.
Exactly.
Man, it was amazing. Some of those games, man, just epic. And just like you said, just had a front row.
The greatest game that I covered was, I think you would probably agree with, be the AFC Championship game.
Oh, no question.
New England.
Mm-hmm.
To me, and I've heard Tony talk about this, I've heard a lot of players talk about it, is that the Super Bowl was almost an anticlimax.
Yeah, for sure.
You knew you're going to win.
I tell people, if it wasn't raining, we win by like 30 or 40.
Oh, my gosh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the biggest quarterback mismatch in a Super Bowl that I can remember.
No, I agree.
You know, with all due respect to Rex Grossman, Rex versus Peyton.
Nah, I'm going to take Peyton. Yeah, it was epic stuff. So enough about football. Let's get about Bob, right? So,
What about Bob?
So, question for you. So, when you're a sports reporter, what is your job like? Because people maybe have this confused that you should be a fan and you should support. Like, what is your position as a writer in your role? What is your job as you see it to communicate what you see from your world?
Yeah, I mean, as a columnist, it's different. If you're a beat guy or a beat woman, you are covering the daily doings of a team. As a columnist, I'm basically telling people what I think.
Right.
It's really a very simple job description. Tell people what you think. One of the best things somebody told me was, don't tell me what you're writing about. Tell me what you're going to say.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for example, when you guys decided not to go for the perfect season, I just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah.
Face. When, you know, everybody wants to know, or I would hope a lot of people want to know what I think about that.
Right.
So, you know, that's what I'm writing about. I try to write about whatever, you know, I wrote the other day for The Athletic, who are the best candidates to replace Phillip Rivers. You know, Matt Stafford, Carson Wentz, Sam Darnold, draftee, whoever it might be. Jacoby.
Right.
You never know. But yeah, I know it's not going to be Jacoby. But that's the thing. It's just tell people, I fell in love with writing before I fell in love with sports.
Wow.
And I just love being able to communicate my thoughts. Now, as somebody who covers the sports, I don't know what your keys are as a middle linebacker
Right.
on a certain play, but that's why I'll ask. I mean, that's one of the things that I loved about your team is there are a number of players who I would ask, off the record, explain this to me. What was supposed to be happening here?
Right.
And you had a lot of guys, including yourself, notably yourself, who would be honest and make me a smarter writer.
Right.
So that's basically what I do is just, now with The Athletic, I'm more of a general assignment guy. I'm writing these long features, like
Right.
I'm writing this Peyton Manning.
Sure.
18 stories on Peyton Manning before he's elected to the Hall of Fame. But yeah, it's pretty simple job for a simple man.
That's awesome. So talk to us a little bit about The Athletic. Like, how long have you been with them? Like, what's their business model? Because I see a lot of the reporters that were with some of the local stations now are with The Athletic. It seems like you guys are getting a lot of stream, a lot of momentum.
We're doing really well. We've been around, I think, 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
We've got well over 1 million subscribers.
That's amazing.
We are only behind, as far as digital subscribers, we're only behind the Washington Post, New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal.
Wow.
So that's pretty good for 4 or 5 years. The business model is we are going to provide the best and the deepest sports writing you're going to find. Like we don't, if something happens, we're going to write about it immediately, quickly, but we're going to give you the story behind the story.
Right.
We're going to take our time and really do deep dives. And that's the kind of thing that I find interesting. I'd like to react immediately. Philip Rivers retires, boom, let's write something. But they want us to go that next step. And the business model is all subscription. We do not take any ads.
Wow.
And we've made it work. Just by the quality of the work that's being done. And subscriptions are the bottom line on the whole business.
Wow.
You've got to get subscriptions, myself included.
All right, awesome. So when they see a link from you, it's best if they show up, click the link, obviously go through and then sign up, right?
Absolutely. What we got to do, or what a reader has to do is, if you're so inclined, read my story. You'll get the first 4 or 5 paragraphs or whatever we show you, and then it'll give you a chance to subscribe. And I can only say from a totally selfish standpoint, I'd like you to subscribe no matter what, but if you go into my story, I get credit for that subscription,
Right.
which helps me immensely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So definitely click the link. When he writes an article, the Peyton Manning story is coming out.
Peyton's coming out the week of February 6th.
All right, February 6th. I'm going to put it on my calendar. So
All right.
I'm going to match it up. So last topic that I want to touch on, and this probably deserves a little bit more time. So we'll probably go over a little bit just because I think we deserve this. Recently, Jim Irsay, Darius Leonard, they came out speaking about the importance of mental health awareness.
Yes.
I know yourself, I know you had some battles with mental health. I remember, as a friend, right? I remember the Heinekens that we had in Sicklerville, right? My first year. And I've always viewed you as a friend, so definitely viewed your career. So you had bouts with sleep apnea that was undiagnosed for a lot of years, caused some mental fog. Recently this year, suffered a quadruple bypass.
Yeah, I've been lucky.
Yes. So that mental health awareness is something that you're very cognizant of. So what's your viewpoint on it? And what do you think about Irsay and Darius Leonard coming out in
Well, I
support
think
of
it's
it?
awesome.
Yeah.
It's absolutely awesome. I think it's one thing for Jim Irsay and his daughter, Kaylin, to do it. I think it's another for somebody that you look at as a Superman, like Darius Leonard. And, Darius has had a tough life. He grew up with nothing. He lost, I think, two brothers to violence.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm very grateful to the Irsays for doing this. And yeah, it's something that I've struggled with since I'm in my 20s.
Wow.
Just anxiety. I have, bouts of depression. I'm not too proud to say that I do take medication for it.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to have helped quite a bit. But what really, really, really helped me was one day I was in the hospital for some heart issue, very minor. And the nurse, the next morning, I was in for observation. The nurse the next morning said, "You don't sleep." She said, you stop breathing every 10, 15 minutes. You have really bad sleep apnea. I was like, maybe that explains why I feel like crap all the time, why I'm exhausted. And I went and got a test, and it's very uncomfortable, and it's a pain in the ass. But the guy said, "You have serious sleep apnea." And they put me on the CPAP.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, Gary, it changed my life.
Wow.
I mean, and I don't even know how low I could have gone.
Right.
It scares me to think about how bad a shape I was in. I was a mental case. But once they got the sleep apnea figured out, it just changed my life. All of a sudden, I had the energy to work out. I had the energy to write. I can remember beforehand writing columns where the words were just kind of coming together because I just couldn't concentrate.
Wow.
And what makes me happy is that I did write about it, and I've had several emails from several people, especially guys, who also didn't understand why they were feeling like garbage, and they got this done, and they feel a million times better.
For transparency, I was one of those guys that saw your story.
You're kidding.
I had sleep apnea. I got it done.
Good for you, buddy.
But I'm awful are negligent about using my machine.
Don't be.
But after hearing you say that, I'm going to the doctor, and I'm going to make sure that I definitely get my machine recalibrated.
Right.
So if it's not calibrated right, like the pressure comes in, it just feels like it was choking me at night, and it's just like
it takes a while
to get used to it.
I tell people it takes a good 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow.
You're going to have some rough nights, but 2 to 3 weeks, and I'm telling you, it's an absolute life changer.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I had some health issues unrelated to the sleep app. I have a very bad family history with heart issues, but I'm telling you, I don't know where I would be, if anywhere, if that lovely nurse had not said that to me.
Wow, that's amazing. Quick story I'm going to share with you. It's amazing how sharing your vulnerability with others and just being like an advocate, how it helps someone. So I can remember, 6 years ago now, Instagram just getting popular. And then I had 2,000 followers, getting 10 likes a post. They're like, man, what am I doing every day? They're overthinking what I'm going to post. So I'm posting, and I don't care. I'm posting for me, right? So I'm at Coast Camp during Anderson. And it was like one of those alumni days. And there's the guys who played like football, like a long career, and those guys who just kind of, had a sandwich and shit, but they still get invited, right? So one of the guys, he tasked me, and he was like, "Hey man, this guy actually played." So he tasked me. He was like, "Hey man, you saved my life." And I'm just like, what's up? Like, you want to bet? You're a gambler? Like, what is? Then he hit me, and then I walked back. He was he started tearing up. He said, I was going to commit suicide one night. And in the morning time, I had my gun loaded, was writing my letters, and I went on Instagram, and you posted something. And your post said, for men, you don't ask for help because you're weak. You ask for help because you want to remain strong.
Right.
And he said he put the gun down, he called and got help. And it's so important that people like you, like I, share our stories and our struggles, right? Because, man, that's a testimony that's going to go help someone else. Someone watching the show, they go get the apnea study, they get the machine, it's going to change their life.
It does.
So, I commend you for sharing your story, for, always being on the forefront, man. And like you said, I was in Philly, in New York, reading those stories. So what you guys brought out here was just yeah, that sounds about right. The funniest thing I ever saw you write, and I'm going to give you a chance. I know you know where I'm going.
I know where you're going.
Super Bowl season, Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was a rough game.
That was a rough 375 yards on the ground.
Yeah. First play of the game, I'm like, Kato June, I called the wrong close call. But at the end of the day, it's like, if I call the wrong close call, if y'all line up to what I say, then it doesn't matter. Like, we can make it right. But some players are like, no, it should be closed this way. And be like, well, I called it. So whatever. So we're in the wrong alignment defense. The fit was wrong. Fred Taylor, everything, he pulled his hand for an 80-yard run.
Yeah.
Then after that,
Guys were getting hurt because they were running so much.
so the funny, you said that the only reason Jacksonville didn't run for 600 yards because the end zone kept getting in the way. I had the biggest laugh because I was like, that is the truest shit that I've ever heard. Because there was
told me a couple weeks later, he said, or after the Super Bowl, he said, you should get a Super Bowl ring.
Bruh, you should.
For that.
Oh, man.
That made us laugh and it pissed us off.
Oh, yeah. It was.
And then the next week, I remember that Tony Kornheiser, who was doing Monday Night Football, who was a friend of mine, he quoted that quote in his opening. And you guys went out and absolutely stoned Cincinnati on a Monday night game.
They took Gilbert Gardner out. They put
Rob Morris,
that's in.
And
Bob
Sanders came back.
Yeah.
So Tony always said, well, we didn't change a thing. We didn't change. Nah, you did.
Yeah.
You did. Gilbert was out, Rob was in, and the enforcer was back.
Another story on whether Bob is a Hall of Famer or not. Short career, but God, if the criteria is someone who changes the game, he should be on the list. But,
well, hey, if Terrell Davis, who I covered, I saw him get hurt. If Terrell Davis can make it, maybe there's a spot for Bob, but I doubt it, unfortunately. But what a game changer. Guys did not want to run for fear of getting hit by that dude.
I didn't want to tackle people. Like, I changed the way I tackled because of Bob and Mike Dawes. Because they would hit me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to go low. I'm getting out the way. Y'all can do whatever y'all want. So last question I asked all my guests this, man. This has been fantastic. But the name of the podcast is Success Leaves Clues. So like as a writer, as a human being, like what has been some clues that you have seen in your life that kind of led to your success? So if you have one clue to kind of give someone, your 20-year-old self, like what clue would you give him right now from the wisdom that you acquired over all these years?
Not a lot of wisdom, Gary, but I would just say be relentless. Just be relentless and, blaze your own path. Like don't write what everybody thinks you're going to write. Don't be predictable. Don't just write about what people are talking about. Write about what people are going to be talking about tomorrow because of what they read. But I just think it's relentlessness. It's one of the few good qualities that I possess is that when I get my mind on something, and maybe I'll get my mind right on working out.
Right. Gotta get you there.
Let's hope so. But I just, from day one, I knew this is what I wanted to do. It was either play hockey in the National Hockey League or be a sports reporter. And hockey was not much of an option for me. I was a very average college player.
Wow.
So, I just think the relentlessness of it. And, what I tell young people all the time is get your foot in the door early.
Right.
And if that means taking out the garbage at your local newspaper, do it. Just be there because you never know when that break is going to come. And so I guess that would be about it. I'm not much on the wisdom side of things, Gary, because I'm a disaster.
Well, that's great.
All right.
Yeah. Hey, man, to the outside world, right? You've done more than all right. So
I appreciate that.
I definitely appreciate your columns. Obviously, now they can sign up at the Athletica. I know when they buy Kravitz headline, but obviously appreciate your friendship over these years, man. Thanks for coming on. And appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Success Leaves Clues. Please like and subscribe to this channel. And go to the Athletica, man. Sign up for Bob's article. I promise you're going to enjoy what you read. All right, guys. Till next time.